Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2005, it's a Chevy Trailblazer. We're going to be changing front and rear brakes and rotors. So let me bring you up there. I'm going to show you what you're going to need, what tools you're going to need, and then how to get the job done. So all right, come out front and I'll explain what we're going to do. Okay, there's an example of what kind of tools you're going to need to get the job done. The bolts for the mounting bracket for the caliper was a little bit tight, so we actually have a breaker bar. Gives us a little more leverage so we can break them loose and get them off without a problem. The socket here, just so you know, is 18 millimeter. This is a 13 millimeter. We're going to use to take off the bolts to hold the caliper to the mounting bracket. A pair of cutting pliers. I'll explain why in a minute. An assortment of sockets just in case you need them. I don't think you will. A little pry bar such as this to push the pistons back in, or possibly a screwdriver. A file or some emery cloth or something to clean up any kind of rust that's on the mounting bracket. A tool such as this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this one, but any tool to push the piston back in. We are going to need to replace the hardware on the caliper, and of course new brake pads, some silicone grease to put the lubricate everything before we put it back together. We're going to need something to clean up the hub, whether it's a disc or it's a razor blade or a scrape or a sander or whatever. These are the clips that actually go back on the disc indicator, and of course that nut right there. That nut makes the job just a little bit easier. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to come in the back right over here. We're going to take out that 13 millimeter there and this 13 millimeter right here. We're going to take the caliper, we're going to bring it over to the side, we're going to hang it with the hanger off out of the way, and then we're going to take out that 18 millimeter bolt right there, and there's one more 18 millimeter bolt down underneath here. These clips right here, you don't have to save these clips, you break these off and you throw them away. This is the first brake job being done, and these clips are actually on there just to keep the rotors on during the building process. So you break these off, throw them away, and that's it. Alright, now usually you will get in here with the pry bar and push the piston back in, but as you can see, we're not going to be able to get in there with that pry bar because we have that anti-rattle clip right there is in the way. So we're going to have to do it a little bit differently. But alright, let's get set up and let's get started. Okay, now remember I told you these clips, we're not going to use these. You just get on here with a pair of cutting pliers, you just grab them, pull them, and break it off. Same thing on the other side right here. You just grab it, pull it, get underneath here, and then these are both trash. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to break these two bolts loose right here. This one, and then this one here. Now, don't lose these because we are going to need to use these later. And then we're just going to take this caliper off like this. And now we're going to take the caliper, we're going to hook it on here, and we're just going to bring it up over here and out of the way. Alright. Alright, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take out that 18 millimeter there and that 18 millimeter there. Remember I said these are a little bit tight. You can use a regular wrench or a regular ratchet, but with the additional leverage it makes it very easy. Now you want to definitely break them both loose before you do anything, because if you try to break it loose with the one bolt out, I'll show you what's going to happen then. Out, and you tried to break this one loose. When you try to break this loose, the entire caliper itself, the mounting bracket, will move like that. That's why you want to break both bolts loose before you take them out totally. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we'll take this off. Now this, we're going to come back to this later. We are going to change the hardware, which is this stuff right here on both of them, but we'll come back to that in a minute. The rotor then just comes right off, and I'm going to bring you in there. I'm going to show you this here. When we talked about the rust on here, all of this rust that you see on here, that needs to come off. If you don't take this rust off, now you can't feel it obviously, but that part right there is a little bit of a bump that sticks out. If you put the rotor on, that rust, it's going to stick up just a little bit, and these brakes are going to pulsate like crazy. So we are going to come in here, we're going to clean these up with a disc, and once we clean them up, then we'll come back and we'll put it back together. Now remember, I told you there's different ways of doing it. The way I'm going to do it here at the shop is with a disc like this. We're going to clean up all of this rust inside here, and then once it's all cleaned up, we'll come back and put it back together. Okay, now what we do is just take the brake pad out like this and like this, and then we'll take these clips here off. You just pull them and they come right out. Same thing here. Now, any place that you have rust underneath here, if you have rust in here, at this point you want to clean that rust out of there. Now this is actually not rusted, so we're not going to have to do anything with that, but we are going to lubricate it before we put our new clips back on. Just a little bit of silicone in every place that the bracket is going to go. And then we just take this, put it over the top like that, and you push it down, just like that. Well, we'll do the same thing on this side here as well, just like that. And that's it, that's how our clips go. Now, what we're going to do also, let me get a rag, we're going to take our slide pins out. We're going to clean the grease off that's on the pins themselves. We're going to put a little bit of lubricant on. You don't need a heck of a lot, just a little bit. And then we'll put it back in just like that. Same thing here. Clean off all the grease that's on there, just like that. And then we'll just put a little bit of grease back on here so that everything slides nice and freely, just like that. Okay? Next thing we're going to do, every place that the brake pad is going to touch, you want to put a small amount of the synthetic grease, just like that. Alright, so now everything will slide nice and freely. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our brake pad. And you see this clip right here on the brake pad? Now you see these brake pads, they don't have that clip on there. So what we're going to need to do is take this clip here, and we're going to replace it with the new clip right here on the side. Alright? Okay, just like that. Alright, now before we go any further, we're going to go back and we're going to push that piston back in with these brake pads. So let's do that. Okay, so now we're going to take our caliper back off here. We're just going to hold the caliper right there for 1 second. We're going to put our brake pad in here. We're going to put our other brake pad in here. And then we take that tool that we use to recess the caliper, like this, put it in here, like that, and then we just turn it. Put these on the side for now. Now, as tempted as you are to not change that clip, don't do that. You have to make sure you change it. Let's just pry it out. And we're going to take our replacement clip the same way that this one comes out, just like this. And we're going to put our replacement clip back inside here. We're going to make sure that your clip came through in the back just the way it's supposed to, and as you can see it did. And then we're going to take this and put this off to the side for now, just like that. We're going to put our new rotor on here, and we'll start wrapping this up. Take your rotor, put your rotor over the top, just like that. Now just take that nut that we had, put that up on there like that. Now you see how this rotor moves around? That's why we have that nut there, so we can screw this nut on and hold the rotor in place while we're working. Now it doesn't move. See? On here, or you could put them on in the car itself once it's installed. I like to put them on here because it's a little bit easier, and they just go in just like that. Alright? And we'll do the same thing with the other brake pad. Just like this. Alright, just like that. That's what it's supposed to look like. Alright, so now we're going to take this, put it over the top of the rotor just like this. Squeeze your brake pads together. And then we're going to catch both of the bolts that previously came out. Okay. Now, there is torque specs on these bolts right here, but I'm just going to tighten them up for now, and we'll come back to that. Okay, nice and tight. Now, I just want to point this out. This rotor, I did clean it off with brake cleaner and a rag. We will wipe it down one more time before it leaves, but just want to let you know about that. Alright, so now we're going to take our caliper. We're going to take a slight bit of grease and put it every place that the piston is going to touch, or the brake pad is going to touch. Just a little bit like this, every spot, just like that. Okay? And we're going to take the caliper, put it over the top, this, and you're going to push in those little slide pins right there. And we'll catch each one of the bolts. Now, the reason we change the hardware is to keep it from rattling, so you'll feel a slight pressure pushing back at it. It's normal because the brake pad is being touched into that anti-rattle clip right there. So we'll just screw this down like this, and now we'll come in with a ratchet and we'll tighten it up. Again, there's torque specs on these. And that's it. Alright, so this side is then finished. We're going to take that nut back off now. Alright, let me explain to you exactly what we did here again. We cleaned up the face where the rotor is actually going to touch on the hub. We cleaned up all that rust inside there, so now it's nice and clean. We installed our new hardware kit on the mounting bracket here and here, and we also changed the anti-rattle clip in the back, and that's where I was telling you it has to be above, just the way it is right there. That's how it's supposed to be. We tightened up that 18mm bolt there. And we also tightened up the 18mm bolt down here. We put the new brake caliper over the new brake pads. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch, all three here, and also on the two pistons. And then we tightened up the bolt here, and also the bolt here, and those are 13mm, so those are all tight. So fronts are done, and all right, we're going to go in the back now. Okay, front brakes are done. We're going to go now to the back. But if you're only doing the front brakes and you're not doing the back brakes, what you want to do at this point is you want to get into the vehicle, you want to pump the brake pedal, and you want to get that piston back up on top before you drive the car. The first couple of times you step on that brake pedal, it's natural for that brake pedal to go right to the floor because you're actually pushing those brake pads back out so that they're actually coming in contact with the new rotor. So it's very important that you pump that up before you drive it, and like I said, it's perfectly normal. You may get a little bit of burning smell, you may even see a little bit of smoke. That's perfectly normal as well because the rotors have that grease inside the ribs, so it'll smoke a little possibly too. All right, but that's it. Let me get a new pair of gloves. Let's get in the back, and we'll get started in the back.